So BMW is out with a new concept, and this is the BMW XM Concept, and it doesn't look like they're gonna stop increasing the size of the grille anytime soon. So BMW wanted to create something special to celebrate the M's 50th anniversary, and they certainly made a bold statement with their latest concept, the XM Concept. It has the same wheelbase as an X7. It rides on a set of 23-inch wheels, but it's a lot more powerful. So what I want to do in this video is, of course, cover some of the spec and tech here of this new XM Concept, because it is a beast of a machine. And then, of course, we're gonna have to talk about this design, both from the front, the side, and the rear. Now, you can't look at this design and not have an opinion on it, whether it's good or bad, as some of these comments that I saw on Instagram demonstrate right here. They say design elements were inspired by the original M car, the M1 of the late 1970s. However, I'm struggling to see that in this design, specifically in the surfacing. Yes, there are double BMW logos in the rear window, but that's about it as far as I can tell when it comes to inspiration from the M1. It will be a beast of a machine, as I said, since it's powered by a plug-in hybrid system which uses BMW's twin-turbocharged 4.4-liter V8 engine. So you have a V8 in a brand new BMW, which lately I feel like they've been really pushing the I models and the electrification of the brand, but here they decided to go with the V8, and that's going to be in the production version as well. So this, in combination with an electric motor, brings you a total output of 750 horsepower and 737 pound-feet of torque. This makes it the most powerful M car ever produced, and it's intended, of course, to compete with other super SUVs such as the Lambo Urus and the upcoming Ferrari Purosangue. This is a standalone M vehicle, meaning it will only be sold as a high-performance M model. You're not going to have like a normal X7, for example, and then an X7M. This is only going to be the XM model, and this concept looks surprisingly ready for production, specifically if you look at the interior and the screen and the steering wheel and stuff like that. It looks like it's almost ready for production. And whether that's a good or a bad thing, that's totally up to you. I'll let you know what I think about the design in just a minute. So BMW says that the production car will actually look about 90% like the concept here, with only minor changes done to it when it arrives at the end of next year already. Since it's a hybrid, you can technically drive it on pure electric power, but it isn't mainly marketed as an EV because you can only get around 30 miles of electric only driving range. The XM will enter production at the end of next year and be built in South Carolina. It won't be cheap. The price is expected to start well over $100,000. So let's have a look at this design here. Let's start with the front view. I've seen a lot of comments, very negative comments for the most part. The thing is, I don't think this is a terrible design. It's a whole lot better than the BMW iX. That's for sure. That to me is the worst design BMW has ever come out with, and this looks a lot better. So the big grille from this angle, it really doesn't bother me that much, because cars today, SUVs specifically, if you have power SUVs like these, they are always going to have large grilles. It's just what they have these days, and specifically when you consider that a big market here for this XM is going to be China, and they love huge grille in the front. So that's partly maybe one of the reasons why they decided to put a big grille here on the XM Concept as well. But before we talk about the design, what I want to do is just show you some of the early sketches here. These are probably sketches done after the fact that they built the concept just for marketing purposes, but I want to show you these. Focus on these sketches right about here, and this little doodle right here, and also this doodle down here. So what I want you to focus on here is just, can you look at these sketches and do you see, does it feel like it's been made with a nice flow of the hand? Does it feel like it has this grace and elegance that comes with a design that's been sketched with pen and paper from the start? To me, this does not feel like that at all. This design feels like it's very tight and it's so angular and unharmonic, if that's even a word, I'm not sure, but it definitely doesn't feel organic anymore. And I think that's basically the direction that we're going with, specifically with BMWs of late. They feel a lot more like product design, and we've lost that magic that separates automotive design from product design, which is that human touch and the human feel to the surfacing and the sculptures and the clay modeling and the lines that you sketch by hand and the tape. Imagine doing this with a tape sketch right here that they usually do when you design a car. It would just be straight lines, angle, straight line, angle, straight line. There are no curvatures here, so this doesn't have this flow of a human hand, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if you understand what I'm saying, but when you can definitely tell when a car has been sketched by hand. It does have a certain flow to it, and there's almost never a straight angle on cars that have been cars that used to be designed like this, almost all of them, up until about a decade ago or something like that, when this digitalization of car design took over. And I think this is a typical example of that. It doesn't necessarily look horrible if we go back to the front view, but if you compare it to old sketches, not that old, maybe a decade old sketches from BMW, you can see that it has beautiful long line stretching, but it also has a lot of sharp corners and sharpness in it. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's lost this automotive design, and it's really going into the product design territory, specifically with designs like this. As I said, it doesn't really look that bad, but it doesn't look like an automotive sculpture to me anymore. I think that's where BMW has completely stepped away from that type of approach to design. And what I mean by that, we can talk about the front view here and exactly what I mean. So we have this angle right here, this line, a straight line going into very, very tiny headlights right here. I'm not sure if they're gonna keep this size in production, because these are very small. They're gonna have some very advanced LED technology to make this work as proper headlights with this size right here. And I'm not sure what's going on here. I don't understand this triangle that BMW is doing right now, to a massive triangle that sticks out on the side. You have it on the new BMW M240 or M240i, the new X3, and the same thing, a massive triangle in the front end right here. Not sure why they're doing that. And then you have this another angle right here and a third angle right here. So three different surfaces, all flat surfaces, no curvature on the surface at all, which brings it, as I said, into product design territory. You have the same thing right here, flat surfaces going into another flat surface with a bit of angles and sharpness connecting those flat surfaces. So it's definitely a new design language by BMW, but as I said, comparing this to the iX, this is definitely a better design than the iX. So let's have a look at the rear view right here, and this is where it gets interesting when we have these taillights sticking all the way up to far into the side view of this design. It's again not necessarily a bad design, it's just a very soulless, static design, not just in the body panels and surfaces of the car, which I just explained in the front view with these flat surfaces connected with sharp lines, but also in the graphics. You can see here the thickness of this LED. It has the same thickness all over. This is the same thing that they did with the new X3 in the rear end. I made a redesign of that. Try to add some dynamic features in the, at least in the graphic features of the car. Maybe make this part a little thicker, something like this, so we have some interesting details going on here, and that it doesn't look static and boring. BMW, to me, it's kind of sad, because BMW has always been a very dynamic looking design or manufacturer of cars. It's the ultimate driving machine, so we need to have some more dynamics in the, at least in the graphics. If you're not gonna have it in the body, which we don't on this car, let's make it something like this. A small little touch, but it adds so much to anyone who's looking at this design to just have some fun and analyze what's going on. Just add some different thickness right here, maybe something like this. This is not perfect at all. This is just a quick little edit of what's going on here. I think you get the point. Not have it be just one single line going all the way around. Create some movement in the graphic features right here, because we do have it in some parts of the car. For example, right here, even though this the same kind of philosophy that goes all around this car. Then I guess we have a little air outlet right here. Not sure what that is. I do kind of like these the vertical placement of the exhaust tips, because as you know, BMW M cars, they've always had these 4 quad exhausts. My favorite ones are the E39 M5s, where it looks like 4 little bazookas. And here, since it's an SUV, it's an XM, which means that it sits higher. We need to work a little bit on the vertical feeling of this design. So creating them on top of each other like that, it brings up the height of this rear end and the vertical feeling of it. Proportion wise, let's have a look at the side view here. It doesn't look bad in proportions. It's really not a bad looking design when it comes to proportions. I just wish it had more of a human touch to it and not look so digitalized in every single surface that even spreads into the graphic features of the car. At least bring some human touch to this design by adding some curvatures somewhere on this design. I'm not sure where, or even if we can mix these two philosophies. So we have this sharpness and this flat panels connected with each other, like almost like an origami type design. If we can connect it with some human elements and human curvature, that would be an interesting design philosophy for any brand to try and experiment with, how those can work well together. And I think one way that we can actually do that, now that I think about it, is that if we have the body panels looking like this, looking like origami, the one thing that we can add some human touch to maybe is if we have the same kind of proportions across the lineup. So the proportions and the graphics are what's going to determine the identity of any brand moving forward. It's not going to be overstyling anymore. This is a little overstyled, but if we have an origami body shell or body type of the panels of the surface of the car, we can add some human touch in the graphics. Maybe that's how we can combine both a graphic human touch with this new design language of BMW, of having this origami style design approach on the other surfaces. So maybe that could work. I'm not sure. It requires a lot more experimenting to do that. I do love these wheels. I think these wheels are looking great and it suits this the SUV overall, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this in real life. As you know, once you see a car in real life, it's changed the perception of what you have of it. I don't think the big grille looks bad on this BMW. I actually think it suits this car. It suits it a lot better than, for example, the iX. It suits it a lot better than the 4 Series as well. This looks more integrated now, because the problem I had with the M4, for example, it's in between this language and the old BMW, smooth surfaces and curvatures and so on. What the BMW M4 looks like is it has a lot of things and curvatures, sharp edges going on in the front, and then it's totally smooth in this area right here. So they don't connect with each other. Here, however, we have very sharp angles in the front end, very static looking front end, a lot going on, but that design language continues all around the car here. So we have this as a continuation, not just in the front and then nothing happens in the middle. Here it is a congruent design. So I think BMW are building on this, and they're kind of finding how they want to implement this design language. And to me, this is actually a step in the right direction, even though it's pretty sad that we're losing the BMW driving machine, which to me is a dynamic looking sculpture on wheels.